That's one of our trending matters that you definitely will be seeing in the space and in the days to come. Joining us to look at the proposed social media bill is Yemi Adamelekun. She's of the Enough is Enough. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Very quickly, tell us, is this still very much there? Enough is enough?
Yes, yes, it is. Well, elections are over, so now
so we thought it's just a temporary movement.
Oh, not at all. 4 years and still going, or 5 years and still going strong. Elections are over. Now we focus on those you've elected and keeping them accountable, which is why the social media bill is quite apt. And the National Assembly as a body is one of the key institutions we're looking at.
And when you say you keep an eye on those that we have elected, the National Assembly is one key place, and these are representatives of the people.
Exactly.
And perhaps being representatives of the people, they also feel what the people feel and what the people want. And let's go into what we want to look at today, and that has to do with the proposed bill for social media, perhaps regulating the social media. How are you taking this? We saw that some others, just like Enough is Enough, went on yesterday on a peaceful protest, and they were also addressed by a representative of the Senate there on this particular matter. Is there a kind of misunderstanding or misreading that maybe Nigerians are getting concerned in this particular proposed bill?
I don't think so. I mean, if you look at two sides of it, there's the spirit of the law and there's the letter of the law. So there's nothing in the letter of the law that says you can't have freedom of speech. What it says basically is that if you make false statements, then there are penalties, you go to jail or you get fined. But the issue really is, that's really just libel or slander, just defamation. And there are already laws. Defamation is a criminal offense, and there's a civil and criminal offense in Nigeria. So one, why do you need another law to regulate what already is illegal, technically? So one, that's an issue. People are concerned about the speed. So it's already gone through second reading. Next step will be a public hearing. And in the past, the National Assembly tends to, for controversial bills, they might give notice of public hearing like a day before, so it gives you very limited time to respond. So the next step is a public hearing and then a third and final reading. And not just this bill. I think before the former president left, he signed the Cybercrime Act or bill as an act. Now, one provision of that, I forget the specific section, actually penalizes the same thing this social media bill, quote unquote, is also trying to penalize. So you really then wonder what is the National Assembly really trying to do if this is what they're focusing on. There are lots of other bills on the floor that they haven't looked at. Or more importantly, just even being accountable to their citizens, which is one of the campaigns that we're running, in their accounts. So they get 120 billion every year. Their salaries, according to the revenue mobilization, the commission that regulates salaries, is about 12 of that billion. So you have about a balance of about 108 billion naira that we're asking you, what do you do with it? We've been asking for 3 years. They haven't provided that. And yet this seems to be a priority for them. So you really then begin to wonder what really is it that they're after. And we were talking about it a bit earlier. You have a senator or I guess maybe let me not say a senator, let me say all of them. All of them use social media when they were campaigning. What they also forget is when they're out of office in the next 4 years, some of them might get re-elected. What they are passing, they then become subject to it. So I'm not quite sure they think beyond protecting themselves within the chambers when they're in office.
But one would wonder again, if they use the social media, some of them do, yeah, use the social media, and now a lot of them there still use the social media. Why do you think they'll want to gag the social media if this is a tool that they have used and they are still using?
Well, use of social media is very different. I can use social media and all I do is I issue a press release and then I tweet the content of my press release. If you ask me a question, I don't respond. If you try to engage me, I don't respond. But I will tell you I'm using social media because I have an account and I share information. But that's really not the optimal use of it. It's a mode of engagement. Now, unfortunately, the way most politicians are used to engaging with citizens and via media is unidirectionally. So on radio, you're listening. On TV, you're listening. Now, you can't respond. So if a politician comes here and is sitting and is chatting with you, the way citizens get to respond is because you guys are using social media tools. So people are tweeting and saying, no, say that or ask that question. But otherwise, there really is no feedback. But if you're on social media as a politician, you're forced to deal with immediate feedback. You're forced to deal with questions.
And then that's an opportunity also for them to be blackmailed, because that's what some of the senators have put out there, that the the social media platform is being used by some people to blackmail and intimidate them.
Blackmail how? I can only blackmail you if I have a fact about you that you don't want to be made public. And it's illegal. So, I mean, I don't think it's peculiar. I can blackmail you through radio. I can blackmail you on the phone with a phone call. I can blackmail you through a letter. So why is it peculiar to social media? And what's so special? I mean, why that particular platform? And if I haven't done anything wrong, why would I need to blackmail you?
So what do you think is the reason behind this then?
Really, honestly, if you look at sort of the trend, and also beyond the two acts of bills that we have, you've heard of comments in the last, over the last 4 years around social media needs to be censored, people need to self-regulate on social media. And
do you agree with that?
That social media needs to be censored?
Do some of the comments on social media and some of the things that are said on social media disturb you?
Some do, yes, most definitely. Do people lie on social media? Most definitely. But one of our strong beliefs, because it's a platform that we use often, is that social media tends to self-correct. So if you put out a statement that's not false, I mean, a classic example is when people, for example, put in a picture of a crowd and say, oh, this was a crowd that was either, I mean, I think the Biafran one is a classic example. So there was a crowd put on Twitter and said, these are the number of people that were protesting. Someone just did a Google search and found out that the crowd was from some other country, or maybe 2 years ago. So those are the kind of things that it also allows you to check. And it's with, like, same way with any platform. Any platform has its pluses and minuses. But saying that you don't want people to have the freedom to express themselves is a problem. And if you look at it, social media is the only platform that Nigerians can have access to relatively cheaply. Because all I really need is data. I don't need money to pay for a radio jingle or a radio program.
But no one has said that that cannot happen. No one has said that the good side, because everyone would say that as with every good thing or every powerful thing, there is a good side to it and there is a bad side to it. It's a double-edged sword. So do you think that the bad, as you know, it was seen that the senators are concerned about, is outweighing the good of social media?
Well, most definitely not. Most definitely not. And I think, again, if you look at this bill as a standalone bill, you already have laws that check what they are trying to check. So my question then is, why do you need another?
But not once have we seen any situation where that kind of, that kind of situation was checked in a law court. I haven't heard one case where...
I mean, so the Cybercrime Act that was just passed before the president left, in the last 2 months, it's been used to basically get 2 bloggers to do apologies. And I'm not sure if one of them paid fines for basically writing a false story. So it has been used. So why do you need another act?
But are you against regulating the social media platform?
What do you mean by regulating?
How do you think regulation will happen if it's going to be regulated, for instance? I mean, for instance, if people have to be moderate in their comments. I have read comments on social media and I'm saying, how can anyone write this? If people have to be moderate in their comments, do you think that it can be moderated or regulated, as it were? Okay, so if you do moderation, so most people who have blogs or pages take it upon themselves because they also want people to come to their site. So I wouldn't go to a site where if I put up an article, I put up a post, by the time I read the comments, they're insulting myself, my mother, my unborn child, then it's not a platform I would want to put future comments. So people who own blogs or own spaces, they've taken it upon themselves because they want people to come back and visit their sites to moderate those comments. And as with anything, if you give people a tool to express themselves, you will have some crazy people. There are always bad apples in a bushel. You would always have. How do we deal with the bad apples? That's the question. Because in regular media, for instance, in traditional media, I mean, bad apples have to be plucked out, as it were, or picked out, as it were. But in social media, they're just there. And so if you Google over and over again, I mean, if you have a bad comment, a lot of people worry about that. And if something bad has been said about me and, something is not done about it, or if I don't take it upon myself to do something about it, if you Google me up or Google anyone up, it'll show up. That's what we most likely might get. Yeah. How do you deal with that? Agreed. Again, there are laws that help you. So if someone writes something on you on social media that's wrong, you can sue them for libel or slander, for defamation, number one. Number two, again, the Cybercrime Act, as I've just explained, has already maybe sanctioned or prosecuted 2 bloggers for false statements. Those are known bloggers. I mean, bloggers, they're not, because people who have blogs are sort of known. Okay. They're running things on a regular basis. Right. How do you prosecute people who run commentaries with aliases, for instance? Well, okay, if I run a comment with an alias, how would I find you? So as a moderator, if I run a comment, I'm agreeing with you. If I have a blog
and as an alias you write a comment that I think it's either insultive or inappropriate, I have the right to delete it.
True.
And then it's off.
True.
So that provides, so which is why I said earlier that the person who owns the platform, there is a responsibility, and I think that's what the conversation should be. For people who choose, I mean, just as channels as a media platform, the management team of channels has a responsibility to make sure that what your viewers watch aligns with your values. So if you know that it's incorrect, you either issue a disclaimer, and I've seen you guys do it several times, that the issues or the opinions expressed by your guests are not channel's opinions. But you allow your guests to have their opinion. But you constantly correct them that they cannot be insulting, they cannot raise their voice or whatever the conditions might be. And the same thing applies to media platforms. Do you see
that moderation happening enough on social media platforms?
Probably not enough, and I would agree with that. And I think, but also understand that it's a relatively new platform. You suddenly are also giving, and I tell people that you can't also forget sort of the context of which Nigerians are coming to a platform where they have the freedom to express themselves, especially as it relates to government officials. And I think that's one of the things that makes this very, very particular. So for those, most of the people who are a bit antagonistic about it, yes, there are private individuals who have challenges with people saying derogatory comments or making comments they don't like. But we tend to come up around this issue of censorship and regulation, especially when it comes around government officials, because they're not used to people challenging what they do, how they behave, how they spend money.